Hi and welcome to my channel. I really shouted that then, sorry, but hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back after a little break. I was away in North Wales for a week last week, which was brilliant. I didn't film anything in advance or anything. Well, I tried to film this video about 5 times and gave up. I actually tried to film this video about 4 more times yesterday, so today is the final chance. Anyway, I was in North Wales for a week. It was really lovely. I did a reading vlog while I was there, which will be on my channel on Sunday, because that's when reading vlogs are going to return weekly on a Sunday. Anyway, I thought I'd come back, even though we're well into May, with my April book haul part 2, so the books that were sent to me by publishers and the books that I bought myself, because it's kind of a nice, easy way in. That said, if you're one of my Patreons and you saw the as live opening of parcels that arrived while I was away, please forgive the sun. I thought it had gone behind a huge black cloud, but you will see that actually it was quite hectic and not quite as easy as I thought it would be. But let's give this a final whirl. The sun is not helping. The sun's gone, so let's get this video done because this is its last chance saloon. Let's be honest. I'm a big believer that if you can't film a video a certain amount of times, the video doesn't need to be made. Anyway, first up, let's talk about books that were sent from publishers, and I've got some that I haven't talked about before, and then some that I've received final copies of that I thought it would be nice to mention again in case you're interested, or you might have just seen the proof version, which might be different from this version. Anyway, those will come up shortly, but before then, the books that I haven't talked about, blimey, going on already. The first of which is a collection that I'm super duper excited about because I heard the author, Monika Radojevic, talk about Teeth in the Back of My Neck when I was hosting an event for her publishers. And this is a poetry collection that looks at things that I really love. So where cultures combine, where they clash, ancestry, cultural heritage, family heritage, and also identity. And I'm just really excited for it. Monika was one of the joint winners of the inaugural Murky Books New Writers Prize, and that is has got published. So very excited for that. Also really excited for the Miseducation of Evie Epworth by Matson Taylor, who is a delight on social media, and that shouldn't matter, but it kind of does. It's really lovely when an author is really lovely. This is set in, well, it starts in 1962, and it's about Evie Epworth, who is a young woman coming of age in the rural part of, or rural parts of East Yorkshire, and she dreams of escaping to like London ideally, but if not London, Leeds would do. And if you're from the north, you'll know that feeling, or if you're from anywhere rural actually, where the nearest city seems like such a different world, and I think this is going to look at that. Also, I've heard Matson say that he wanted to write a book that also kind of was about a decade and the birth of a decade and sort of a decade's life, if you will. So that really intrigues me for this one. Next up, one I feel a bit conflicted about, partly because I did not love this author's last book, sorry, and I DNF'd it. That's how much I didn't enjoy it. I loved the previous two, Ladder to the Stars, I want to say, or Ladder to the Sky, and The Heart's Invisible Furies. The author is John Boyne. And the second reason I'm a bit like that about it is because John Boyne has said some slightly dodgy things on social media and supported some things that I don't support, which I'm not saying we all have to agree on the same thing. I also don't 100% believe in cancel culture. I believe in dialogue and discussion. But yeah, it's playing on my mind a little bit, and I just want to be open and honest and frank about that. Interestingly, speaking of cancel culture, this is what this book is very much about. It's about the Cleverley family who live kind of a really gilded life. They're very lucky. And then an incident, I believe, on social media changes everything for all of them. And I think that possibly John Boyne might be working through some of the stuff that happened with him. I know he left Twitter for a while, and there was a whole hoo-ha around one of his young adult books around a trans character. So yeah, that's why I feel a bit like that. I think I need to read around it all a bit more and then decide. Then on to an author I have not read but have meant to for ages. This is the first of their books that has arrived here though, and it's That Night by Gillian McAllister. This is the proof edition. And I know that Grace at GK Reads, who I adore, really adores Gillian McAllister's writing, as does Emma at Drinking by My Shelf, who I adore. Although I know she said that this one wasn't her best, but maybe that's a good one to start with and then head back to some others. So yeah, all it says is your sister calls, she's killed a man, what do you do? And that night everything changed. So what does this sister do, or what do these siblings do when their sister has killed someone? intriguing. Then we have a book that I didn't realise was coming out this year. I hadn't heard about it, and then as soon as I knew, it was like, this is one of the books I'm most excited about this year, and it's Sea Change by Alex Nathan. I have already read it. I took it on holiday with me. You will see my thoughts on it in the reading vlog, where I took books set by the sea to read by the sea. What an original concept that was. But actually this was really apt, because I was staying in a converted chapel, and part of this book is told from is about a reverend who has a congregation near the sea, and who isn't a particularly nice person, and uses a mute woman who is found in the sea to his own gain. Now, we realise that that woman is a woman called Sarah Battle, who was one of the first women to get on an air balloon. She left her daughter behind. There was a disaster with the air balloon, and everyone presumes she's dead, but we know that she is that mute woman. That's not giving anything away. You find that out really, really, really quickly when you're reading it. So yeah, I'll tell you more about it in my May wrap-up, because after the spring wrap-up, part 2, that comes up later this week, I will be just starting to do the sort of bi-monthly ones again, so part 1 and part 2 every month. So yeah, that's the plan. There will be a spring wrap-up part 3 that is just for my patrons, like that unwrapping live video that I did. So if you want to find out more about that, links down below. Moving on to a book called Quen, which I'm really excited for, by Alice Albina, and I nearly took this on holiday with me actually, because it's set on a remote island off the British coast that is run all by women, and that's all I know about it. I don't want to make any assumptions, because assume makes an ass of you and me. I don't want to make any assumptions, make an ass of myself, in kind of working out what goes wrong or what might happen. I kind of want to just go into this and experience it, because it just, there's something about it. All I know from the back of the book is a storm, a disappearance, a band of women, and a remote island where anything is possible. I'm intrigued, and as I've spoken about before in wrap-ups, I really, really don't like to, in hauls and in wrap-ups actually, and just in videos in general, that I'm not a big fan of knowing too much about a book before I read it, which is the case with this next book, which is a Carla's YA debut, The Dark Lady, and all it says on the back is: a pickpocket with an exceptional gift, a prisoner of extraordinary value, an orphan haunted by dreams of the mysterious Dark Lady. This sounds like it's going to be a gothic treat, and I can't wait. And Hodder very kindly sent a copy for my mum as well. My mum is a huge Carla fan. We went and saw him together in Conversation together, and it was just phenomenal. So that. Now, I mentioned this book in my most anticipated books for May. I'll link that video down below if you want to go and see it if you haven't. And this shows that sometimes you need people to educate you on a book and go and read around it, because the book is Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing by Lauren, I want to say Hoff, but it could be Howe. Or Hugh, I don't know. She might tell me off for this if she ever sees this. It's essays, and when I talked about it in that video, I was so excited because it was about gender, queerness, cults, all things I'm really, really interested in. But then lots of you started telling me that she has been awful on Twitter, speaking of cancel culture, with anyone who hasn't given her 5 stars. Now, there is part of me that finds that fascinating, slightly admirable, if quite egotistical. But yeah, wow. So now I'm a bit torn, but all the subjects in this book really, really make me want to read it. So we'll see which way I fall off the side of that fence, which I'm very firmly right on the middle of. So much so, I'm getting splinters in places we don't want to talk about. Then we have a book that I basically asked for. This shows you how basic I can be. This is Trifles Need Not Apply by Camilla Bruce. Now, I'm excited about this anyway because I found out more about it after getting it, in the fact that it's set in the Victorian era, which is my favourite era in history. It's a gothic tale about a woman who kills men. On the front it says, men shall inherit the earth unless she kills him. Man shall inherit the earth unless she kills him first, which I love as a byline. But the reason I ended up asking for this is because I'm very basic when it comes to goodies. It came with, I saw this all over Instagram, like people getting parcels with badges for it, which I just love. And also, I mean, I've got millions of tote bags, but who doesn't want to be carrying books around in that tote bag? I certainly do. So the folk at Michael Joseph very, very kindly sent me that, and I will get to that book very soon indeed. Penultimately, out of books that I haven't mentioned before from publishers, this actually was sent by the author, and it is the Green Barbecue by Rukmini Iyer, who I adore and discovered through the lovely Lauren of Lauren in the Books. She cooked us a meal out of her green roasting tin, I think it was, when me and Chris went to stay, and it was amazing, and I became obsessed. And this is sort of Rukmini moving into a different sort of, is she foraying into a different, or is she moving into a different sort of genre of food? Anyway, it's vegetarian and vegan barbecue recipes for the summer. We've already tried a few of these and they are amazing. And what I love about these books and these recipes is they're so simple, but they're also really, really beautifully done. There is never a recipe that does not have an accompanying picture, which I think should be a law actually. And all of it is just wonderful. I will admit you do need to go through the recipes and work out what lesser known ingredients you might need bulks of, and then have them in your cupboard, because Rukmini uses those quite often, which is brilliant, whilst also diversifying with other additional foods. I can't talk cooking properly because I'm not Chris, who is a trained chef. But also what was really, really lovely and made me smile huge amounts was that this came signed. So that was really, really sweet. So very, very excited for that. Now, as I mentioned, I don't know much cooking wise, but I'm going to learn more because Chris is going to start a cookery channel, possibly not this month now because there's been a delay with one of the recipes that he's going to do in due course. So it might be June that launches. But in the interim, I'm going to start reading Molly Bazz's Cook This Book, which is techniques that teach and recipes to repeat. And Rukmini's books have been amazing to get me cooking more. I am quite lazy in the fact that because the kitchen is Chris's area, like the library is mine, I don't really go in there that much. And so when he's working nights and stuff, or late shifts, I will invariably get a takeaway. I just get something simple, like indeed tonight as I record this, it's just going to be pasta that you boil and then add sauce to. Very basic, although delicious. Anyway, this I think is going to change everything because it's a really, really nice, easy sort of introduction to cooking more varied things, which Rukmini has been amazing for giving me loads of basic recipes, but not even basic recipes. That sounds harsh. What I mean is like loads of recipes that a basic chef can make amazing things with, but I think this is going to be the next level maybe. So yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for this and to try more things in my culinary wheelhouse. I was going to say my culinary cookhouse, that doesn't work. Right, now, 6 books that I have mentioned on the channel before. These are the final editions. I'm going to go through them very quickly. First of all is Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth McNeil. I'm going to be reading this very soon because I need to read it for work. So it will be in my next wrap-up. I will talk about it. Very, very excited for this one. It's about a woman who, I think due to birthmarks that she has, becomes the 8th wonder of the world, as like being seen as a leopard woman or leopard girl, but what is the true story for her? So that sounds like it's going to be phenomenal. Then we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I can't believe I haven't read any Taylor Jenkins Reid. This may be the first, although I feel like I want to listen to Daisy Jones and the Six on audio, but I've got a few of her books. This just sounds like it's going to be a real brilliant beach read. And I don't mean that could sound slightly disparaging. And do I mean disparaging or do I mean patronising? I mean one of those words. But what I mean is this is going to be one of those perfect books that you just romp through, but like has extra layers to it, I think. It's set in the 80s, which is always a joy. It's set in Malibu, about a pie that ends up going completely out of control. Sounds fab. Now, next up is The Rules of Revelation by Lisa McNerney, which is also out this week along with Elizabeth's book as this goes live. And I think this is the third in an unofficial trilogy, and I haven't read the second, so I feel like I need to read that before I read this. I loved her first book, The Glorious Heresies, which won the Women's Prize, and love the characters. She writes so... Her books are kind of bleak and very dark, but also very funny. And I find that when an author can do that, it's just sort of catnip really for me. So yeah, I'm also, I should say, judging the Desmond Elliot with Lisa at the moment. She is our chair, so there's that too. Then we have a book that is horror, and I'm thinking about making a vlog over the next sort of few months on and off, but it'll turn up as one video, where I read genres that I haven't read before or read for a very long time, and horror is one of them. And this is The Last House on Needless Street by Chatterbox Savidge. I have not seen anyone be able to kind of surmise this book other than say it's very creepy, and I think a chapter might even be told by a cat. Interesting. But I know people who read all of Chatterbox Savidge and just love books and just loved them. So yeah, very, very, very keen to get to that one. Then we have One Half Truth by Evie. Now this, like the Lisa McInerney, is a book in a series, although this is an official series, not sort of like a series-ish, I guess you would call Lisa's book maybe. It's by Evie Dolan, who lots and lots of people have told me is a fantastic crime author that I would love. I would like to read more crime fiction because I've sort of let that go in the past. And it's about a shooting that initially people presume is drug-based, but actually it turns out that a student has been executed on the way home. But why? And we find out from there. Now, I don't know if I need to read the first one in the series or the first one or two in the series, but yeah, if you have read this series, let me know. And then lastly, from publishers before books that I bought myself, is Madam by Phoebe Wynn. Now, I have mentioned this book before. It's about a young classicist teacher who starts at a boarding school. What happened to her predecessor? There's sort of a bit of a mystery around that, I think, but also some quite creepy things are happening in this boarding school. And very kindly, Quirker sent me a finished copy and my mum a finished copy because my mum is a classicist. So this may be a book that we read together. Who can say at some point? Right. Oh, the sun's come back. Whoop-de-doo. I might pause and come back with the books that I bought myself when the sun has moved on. Actually haven't done that. I've just pulled a curtain over. I mean, what a revelation to do that. Who would have thought of it? I was getting very hot because of the sun. Why did I choose to wear a jumper today? I don't know. It might be to do because I took a thumbnail when I tried to film this yesterday and liked the way I looked. Vain. Anyway, on to books I bought myself. 3 books that I bought myself as a belated birthday present were from a new independent publisher that is publishing really short, sharp works of fiction, and it is Ration Books, and I have the first 3 here. The first one is by Adele Stripe, and it's Stay Alive Till 75. Then we have Bill Drummond's 3x1. And we have Benjamin Myers, We'll Meet Again. Meet is spelt M-E-A-T. Benjamin Myers is one of, well, Ben Myers is an author that I really, really love, for one. 2, he started this independent publishing house, so I wanted to support it, and so I bought the first 3. I shall report back on them in due course. Then a book that I bought that I already have, which was a book that I bought Pip for her birthday. It's actually going to be her birthday on Monday next week, but I bought it for her last birthday, was one of my favourite crime books, Human Remains by Elizabeth Haynes. Now, what I hadn't spotted when I bought it for Pip was on the back, there's a quote. Let's travel this close as we can. From me. There you go. Quote from me on the back of this here book. And so, speaking of vanity and thumbnails, I wanted to get a copy of this for myself because it's got a quote by me on it, and that's a really, really lovely thing. And yeah, I'm well chuffed. So I need to read all of the Elizabeth Haynes crime fiction that I haven't read, and actually me and Pip may talk about this at our next crime time, which we're hopefully going to do later in May. Right, on to 3 books that I bought from charity shops. The first of which is Standard Deviation by Catherine Heine. This I spotted very fortuitously, as it is the current book club pick for a book club that I started back, I think 11 years ago, called the Riverside Readers, when I lived in London, with Kim, who some of you may know as Kim Bofo, who runs the blog Reading Matters. And then we both left a few years later because we both left London. And my friend Polly, who I've known since I was 4, who's one of the members, took over. And I decided, because everything had gone digital, I wanted to rejoin. And their last meeting was actually a pick that Polly had chosen, having watched my channel, which was the latest Jenny Fagan novel. And this is Claire's pick for this month. And I was going to try, well, book club was meant to be last week while I was on holiday. However, it's now moved to the 18th. I haven't read it yet, so I really need to. So that one. I also bought myself, and this is a bit of an odd decision, but I got myself Rebecca Solnit's The Far Away Nearby, which I've heard so many amazing things about Rebecca Solnit's writing. And then I read her picture book for Vintage, where they did this series of fairy tales rewritten as, I think it was called a Fairy Tale Revolution series. And it was so awful. I could not believe that this woman who everyone was raving about could have written it. And when I saw this, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to take a chance on that book, being as it's 50p, and so I'm going to. So that's that. And what I love about charity shops for books is that you can find authors' backlist books sometimes easier than you can in an independent bookshop or Waterstones or a chain, for example. I got myself Sally Vickers' Dancing Backwards. I have read 2 Sally Vickers novels, really enjoyed them both, particularly Miss Garnet's Angel, which is her most famous, and I want to read more. So when I saw that, I got it. Now, I have to admit, this next book was a cover purchase, and I saw Kieran Millward Hargrave talk about this. I think I saw Anna James talk about this, and I think I saw Catherine Webber talk about this book. It's Crystal Sutherland's House of Hollow. That cover is just so gorgeous. I mean, like, honestly, it's ridiculous. And it also sounds really creepy, and it's about sisters. And that is all I needed to know to get it. And so I did. Then we have a poetry collection. This is A Blood Condition by Keo Chingonyi, and I absolutely loved their previous collection, Kumakanda, I want to say it was. Yes, Kumakanda. And I thought it was phenomenal. So I wanted to pre-order this from Waterstone so that I could support the author. And here it is, and I shall read it very soon. The next 3 books, which are the final books that I bought from bookshops in the UK, or charity shops in the case of 3 of them, are all books that I bought mainly due to Sophie at Portland the Pages, who has been talking about the Jalak Prize and just the way she's read through them and has loved them has been contagious. And so I got myself one from the long list, which is Redesire by Afshan D'Souza Lodi, and this is a collection that basically explores the yearning to love, be loved and belong, and I think that sounds really interesting, and it's told by a Desi South Asian perspective. So I hadn't heard of Burning Eye, the publisher. I hadn't really heard of this book. Well, no, I hadn't really heard of this book. I hadn't heard about this book before I saw Sophie talk about it and it being on the Jalak long list. And so yeah, I wanted, when I saw it in, I got this in a bookshop in Mould in Wales, which is a place that sounds odd because mould, but is beautiful. So I'll just put it there. I also got there Inferno by Catherine Cho, which Sophie raved about this memoir. It's a memoir of motherhood and madness, and Sophie just said it was phenomenal. And so I was like, well, I got to read that. So I got to read that, and I had to buy it. And last but not least, I ordered this from Blackwell's. It's Are We Home Yet, which is on the shortlist, as is, I should say, Catherine Cho's memoir. I don't know what this is about at all. I just decided I wanted to support the publisher. It's Jacaranda. This was part of their initiative to publish 20 in 2020, which was just 20 women authors for a year, which I think is a brilliant idea. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to this one in due course. But yeah, it says, as a girl, Katie accidentally discovers her mother is earning money as a sex worker at the family home, rupturing their bond. Wow, that sounds like it's going to be really interesting. So yes, I may head to that quite soon indeed. Then books that I bought from elsewhere, the first of which was a book I got imported from America. It's Lakewood by Megan Giddings. This is a case of Instagram making me buy books. I saw a flurry of posts about this that were saying it was a really interesting, twisty novel. On the cover, it's compared to Get Out, the movie, and it's about a young girl who I think it's after someone in her family. Her grandmother dies, and the extent of the debt that family are in is revealed and changes everything for everyone. So Lena, I think, has to give up going to college and go and work. But the job she ends up at just sounds too good to be true. And of course, I think that's where the sinisterness comes from. But yeah, I'm really, really intrigued for this one. I have to say it's one of those books that's got that almost sort of sandpapery feel, which makes me feel a bit, but yes, I'm really, really keen to read it. And then the final 6 books all came from Readings in Australia, which is a bookshop I absolutely love. Though that said, only 2 of them are Australian books, which I'll talk through those first. The first one I ordered was Witness by Louise Milligan, which was on the it was on the short list and the long list, obviously, because if you've been on the short list, you've naturally been on a long list of the Stella Prize, which is like a Australian version of the Women's Prize, except non-fiction poetry. Oh, is poetry? I think poetry isn't. Maybe it's not. Anyway, all sorts of different forms of writing included. This is non-fiction, all about the justice system in Australia. Now, I wanted to read the whole shortlist. This didn't arrive in time before Evie Wilde, yes, was announced the winner. You know how much I love that book. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how interested I am in it now that not because I'm not interested in justice, and not because I'm not interested in the subjects that Louise Milligan is talking about, because she looks at witnesses and what they can sometimes go through with cases, but I think more because I don't know enough about the British judicial system and justice system. They're the same thing. But yeah, so I feel like I'm going to read something about learning about someone else's that might not be the same as ours, and maybe that, I don't know. I bought it. The other one was a short story collection that I saw doing the rounds that sounded amazing. It's Hold Your Fire by Chloe Wilson. Some of them are really short, sharp flash fiction, and I've just heard that they take you to unexpected places, and a lot of responses to some of them have been, but in like a good way. So that sold. Now, the next few are books, one that I could have got in the UK, but I don't like the cover, so I ordered it to support Readings in Australia. This is Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor, and I have seen Grace talk about this. I have seen, now, who else have I seen? Definitely it was Grace's discussion of this. I think Kieran has read it. I think, who else? CJ Reads has read it. I think Hannah from Let's Talk About Books Baby has read it. And I think Jalen has read it from Bookcase in the Bar. I'm sorry, I've said that wrong. Anyway, it's meant to be really, really difficult to read. It's about a woman who is deemed a witch and what happens to her. And it looks at poverty, it looks at violence, it looks at a whole heap of things. I think anything triggering or traumatic that could exist is in this book, which, oh gosh, there's one thing that isn't really in this book is paragraphs. I've just noticed this could be interesting for me. Anyway, yeah, I'm intrigued. I just, like, it's published by Fitzcarraldo Editions here, who are a publisher that I love, but they only do covers with like just a blue and then white writing, or white and then blue writing, and that I just think is such a stunning cover. I needed it. Then 2 books that I just couldn't get hold of from other countries, so it's just easier to get from Australia. The irony is one of them is now coming out very soon, and that is this one. In the UK it's coming out soon, sorry. Infinite Country by Patricia Engel, and this is about a correctional facility for adolescent girls, and from what I gather, it really, really makes you think, and it just, yeah, it's meant to be phenomenal. I have not heard of anyone who hasn't loved this. I know A-Marie chose it as one of her book club choices. It didn't arrive in time, otherwise I would have joined in. But yeah, I'm really, really keen to get this one. This is one of the books I'm beginning to think about, which books have I not read by the middle of the year that I think are going to be some of my favourite books of the entire year. This is one such book, as is Butter, Honey, Pig Bread by Francesca Equiasi, and this is a book set in Nigeria. I think it's about several generations of women, including sisters, and as I've mentioned, I really, really love books about sisters and siblings in general, actually, and I've just heard nothing but amazing things about it. It was up for the Giller Prize in Canada, but could I get it from Canada? Could I Acker's like? So yeah, I'm looking forward to heading to this one. I think it's also got mythology and stuff mixed in with it, and obviously I think there's stuff around food and culinary culture too, so I just think this is another one that I'm going to love. And last but not least, a book that I have read. I read it last year, I've read it this year, and I had to get this edition of it because it's a book that I think is going to be just one of my all-time favourite books ever, and that is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. I made a whole video on this book, which I'll link down below, yeah, I saw this pink edition from Australia and just had to have it. I just need all the different editions of this book that I can get my mitts on, so very excited to have this. Yeah, thrilled. So there we go, managed to do this video finally, at last. It feels like I've achieved something momentous, even though it's just making a video. But there we go. Let me know what books you have received recently. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. If you didn't like them, hold fire telling me that until I have read them and included them in a wrap up. As I'm excited about these books, I just want to have lovely thoughts about them. I'm more than happy to discuss if people have a different opinion to me or the same opinion to me once I've read a book. That seems fair game to me. Fair game. And on that note, a lovely fair game end of note. I don't know what I'm talking about now. I'm rubbish at the end of videos. I will speak to you all soon. Bye.